but we're here now, and away we go. So thanks again for the wonderful introduction. I'm looking forward to talking to you about something I've been doing for a long time. I guess social media for about 8 years and online marketing for about 20 some odd years, as you can see from just these points and credentials. Dawn gave me a nice introduction there, so I'm going to skip along and try to get through. I've got about 50 slides, and I want to respect your time, so I know this was supposed to end at 11. I will stay on and keep on going till the end for anyone who doesn't have a time restriction. And my email address is there on most of the slides as well, so if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or pop it into the chat window. For the presentation, a couple of people ahead of time had submitted a few questions and also submitted their websites to be used as examples. So I just want to warn you that I have done that. And I've, in all cases, I try to provide constructive criticism. So some background noise there now. Okay. So be ready for that. And so here we go. The agenda. So we're going to talk about developing an effective social media strategy, how to track your results and measure your success, because there's no sense doing this if you don't know how to track it and if you don't know how to determine whether what you're doing is successful or not. Then we're going to look at how to optimize some of the social media profiles that you might be using. So the common ones are Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. There are lots of others, but these are the most common. Also look at how to use social media management tools, in this case a tool called Hootsuite, which is something that I've been using probably for about 7 years as well, and then answer your questions. So I'm actually going to start with some of the questions that were submitted because I'm showing them on the slide here, and then I'll run through them quick, but most of these get answered within the presentation. So someone asked, how can I attract more traffic on the website and put it first on Google, so first in search? So that's something that I hear a lot of. People want to be on the first page or even #1 on the first page. That is something called SEO, or search engine optimization, which could be an entire other presentation that would take an hour or more. What I will say, though, is that online marketing has changed a lot in the last few years, and things are very interwoven now. So what I'm going to be talking about and presenting today in terms of social media will have an impact on your search rankings or the SEO value of your website. So all of these things kind of work in conjunction with each other. So content marketing is a term that you've probably heard, and a term that I'm going to use, and something I'll talk about here, as well as social media and SEO. So you can get on page 1. It takes a lot of work, though, depending on how competitive your category is. #2 is, how do I use Facebook and LinkedIn for more brand recognition and sales? So we're going to talk about that. I'll show you some examples as well. What can I do about SEO, and is this enough for brand visibility? So there again, another question about SEO. It's a popular subject. What's the advantage of purchasing Google AdWords? So AdWords, again, is a whole nother category or a whole nother presentation. Some of you may be doing it. For those who aren't, we've all seen lots of it. Anytime you go to Google and do a search for anything, that is the ad that shows up either at the top of the page or down the right side sometimes. And it's denoted as an ad. They've got a little green button that says ad. And it's usually targeted at the keywords in the search that you're doing. So they can be very valuable. We do lots of that for our clients, and it is a valuable way to drive traffic to a website. Having said that, I see a lot of people doing it incorrectly. But again, that's a whole nother presentation, so I'm not going to talk much about that today. Just going to limit it to social media for today. #5, is it possible to set up a LinkedIn account dedicated to a business? So the answer to that is yes, and I'm going to show an example of that. There are 2 different types of LinkedIn accounts: a personal profile, which you all should have, hopefully, and then there's a LinkedIn business page, or there's no business account per se, but a business page, and I'm going to show you how to set that up and give you an example of that. And then finally, someone asked or said that they'd want to take a course on SEO for their WordPress site, or hire a company that specializes in it and transfer that responsibility to them. So we don't do, my company bWEST, we don't do courses on SEO per se. We have done workshops in the past on social media. We do a lot of SEO for clients. So certainly whoever posed this question, I'd be happy to talk to you about our services and what we provide. And if there's interest, you know, we can see where that goes. So to dive right into it, I always start with this slide, and in the 7 years that I've been doing social media strategy, even up to today, in the discipline or the area of social media is quite mature now, but still there are two critical mistakes that I see most businesses making when they...
Chris, can I interrupt and just get you, have you got the slides on your, have you got your slides showing?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I'm getting a number of calls, people saying they're not seeing the slides.
Oh,
It might have been,
okay.
It's possible. Oh, here they're coming now, I think.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think maybe when I changed to take over as host to see if I could mute it, it probably unselected my sharing.
Yep, they're back up. Thanks, Chris. Got it.
Okay. Sorry about that. So here, I'll just go back to all those questions there. I guess you heard me reading through them, but you didn't see them. So there they are now. So as I was saying, the two critical mistakes I see most businesses making are one, that they don't start with a strategy. I see a lot of businesses kind of diving into social media, thinking that it's a good idea, and it might be, or maybe they're concerned because the competition is doing it, or they've just heard that it's a good thing to do, so they dive in without giving it a lot of thought. And in pretty short order, they end up getting frustrated because they don't think they're successful, or they're not sure how to determine whether it's a success or not, and they're spending lots of time. And of course, as business owners, we've got a lot to do, so there's not a lot of time to do things if we don't know if it's successful or not. So we're going to talk a lot about developing a strategy. And then the second thing that I find businesses don't plan for or don't take into consideration are the resources that are required to do social media well or to manage it. So unlike other forms of marketing, if you've done any traditional marketing like print, radio, TV, events, and so on, you generally work with an agency or work with a partner. The communications get developed, they go out, and then that's the end of it. Whereas with social media, of course, it's kind of a living, breathing organism, and it needs to be nurtured and maintained pretty much on a daily basis. So when you get started, if you don't have a strategy and you don't plan things out and you don't have those resources in mind, then there's a good chance that it's not going to get done properly, or it's going to get missed, and that weekly blog post turns into a maybe monthly or maybe once every 6 months. And then those daily tweets or posts wherever you're going kind of dwindle, and you get frustrated again. So just going to have a look and open the chat there and just see. I'm going to try to keep that open as well and see if there are any questions that comes in. So the main three sections of social media strategy are the objectives. So you definitely want to know what it is that you want to achieve. You want to have goals, and you want to be able to measure those goals. And then we get into the tactics, so what we're actually doing to achieve those goals. And then the measurement, what we're doing to measure to see whether we're achieving those goals or not. So some goals you may have would be simply to increase traffic to your website. So that's a common goal. You may want to generate awareness for your business. And those are good sort of high-level goals. You'll probably want to build your social network, so get more followers on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you happen to be. And then as we kind of dive down a little bit deeper into the business, is depending on the type of business that you are, you'll want to either generate leads. So if it's a longer term sale where you're not selling directly online, it might be something where you need to follow up by email or by phone. You want to generate a lead, so get a prospect's information. Or if you are either selling online or you have a retail outlet where people can come in to a physical space, you want to sell products. So these are all good objectives, and depending on what your objective is, you'll want the strategy to kind of ladder up to achieve those, and you want to have measurements in place. So this is just an example of a way that we measure success for some of our clients, and these metrics will change depending on your business type and your kind of sales process. And we try to limit it to fewer than 10 metrics, really, because any more than that, and you'll start to get overwhelmed and it won't make sense. So on your website, it might be unique visitors and the visit duration, so how long they're spending on the site. Or it could be how many pages they visit on the site, or even visiting certain pages. But the idea is to find out what metrics are important to you and list them here. And then if your business is a lead generation type of a sales process, then what opportunities do you have to generate leads on the website? So most websites have a contact form, so that would be a common way. In other cases, so in this particular client's case, we developed a couple of landing pages where we're directing traffic specifically from social media and actually Google AdWords campaigns. And so we monitor how many leads are being generated either through the contact form and through the landing page. And then, of course, another simple one that we can all track is how are our social networks growing? So each month, how many new followers are we getting? And sometimes you can correlate the size of that network to what's happening on the website and your leads. Certainly, if you're an online sales business, then rather than lead generation, you would have actual online sales. You might have average order size and the conversion rate. So conversion rate being out of the number of people that visit the site, how many people buy. So once we determine our objectives, then we can get into the actual components of the strategy that will help us achieve those objectives. So the number one area is content. So social media is really run on content. It's what we talk about, and then how we're engaging, so the tools that we use and who we're engaging with, and then how we're going to manage that, so the resources, and then how we're going to measure that. So we're going to talk about each of these four areas. So in terms of content, it really is the gasoline that fuels social media. Without content, there would be no social media. So the idea here is to plan valuable, compelling content that's going to be of value to your readers or your subscribers, the people that are visiting your social channels. And that may take the form of copy, so the written word, images, and certainly images and video have become the most popular forms of content in the last couple of years, especially with things like Instagram, which has become very popular. Facebook, also you can post images and video there, and certainly that's the type of content that gets more interaction. So some ways to help you into developing that content is to follow others in your category. So if you have a yoga business or a roofing business, or if you're a dentist, whatever category you're in, follow others in your category to see what they're talking about, and then see how many people are engaging in certain types of content, the things that they talk about. Certainly follow all your customers, and there's a good chance that a lot of your customers are on social media, so listen to them, see what they're talking about. And then if you can, find your prospects and follow them as well. You can carry this on to partners that you work with, suppliers that you work with. There's lots of people that you can follow that will give you kind of inspiration for what to talk about and how to talk about it. And then you'll want to research and start to develop, excuse me, strategic themes. So content ideas around what to talk about. So, for example, we're all experts in whatever business we're in. So you want to demonstrate that expertise through some form of thought leadership, so opinion pieces. Hopefully they're posted to your blog if you have it, or shorter pieces that you can post to your social channels, like LinkedIn is a good one. Facebook, where you can provide longer content. Twitter, of course, is limited to 140 characters, but look for ways to demonstrate your expertise. And that could also be just curating content, so finding articles about your particular business or your category that are coming from mainstream media. So it could be newspapers, magazines, where you post a link to that article, but then give some commentary around why you think what they're saying is true or why you disagree with it. And it's sometimes good to take a contrary position as well to demonstrate your expertise. You can also demonstrate product or service benefits as well, and look for kind of insightful, engaging ways to do that. So testimonials are good, for example, or how-to videos on YouTube are fantastic. Any type of product demonstration video can be done pretty cheaply these days, and then posted to YouTube. Top 10 questions that you get asked, that's a good form of content as well. How-to tips and tricks. And then getting away from the features and benefits form of content is community service. If you're involved in the community, you're sponsoring events, you're helping out, etc. Those are all good opportunities to create and post content around as well.
A little bit like what Chris Burdge is doing today.
Exactly.
Support women entrepreneurs in BC.
Exactly. So here is an example of a content planning calendar, and we do these for all of our clients. So in this particular case, this is a managed IT service out of Vancouver. And this is just an example, but they have a blog and they have Facebook, Twitter. They don't actually have Instagram yet. So this is just an example we use, but you would list up the months and list up the different channels that you're on, and then start to think of content ideas, things that you want to talk about. So ransomware is a big one in their industry, managed IT services, creating infographics. If you aren't familiar with that term, you've probably seen infographics. They're quite popular. And just so that this way you have an idea of what you're going to talk about. If you don't plan it out and then you think, okay, well, I'm just going to do social media, and you try to think of something each morning when you get on the computer, it's going to be tough. So it's better to sit down, maybe even once a quarter, if you have other people in the business with you, where you can brainstorm ideas. And most businesses are a little bit seasonal as well. So depending on if you're retail and you're affected by things like Thanksgiving and Christmas and Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, those are all great national holidays and events to plan content around. You may also be in a type of business where you attend certain conferences or you exhibit at events and so on. So that's another good area to plan around. If you've got events coming up that you're going to be attending, check Twitter and Instagram and so on and see what hashtags are being used, and start to follow those hashtags and post content around that as well, so that you can build a bit of buzz leading up to an event you're attending. Hopefully you all know what hashtags are, but if not, it's the #sign in front of a word that gets used so that people can follow a particular topic. So, for example, it used to be the airport codes for most cities back, in the early days when Twitter was young. So YYJ for Victoria, YVR for Vancouver, etc. They don't get used that much anymore because they kind of get overused. But now, for example, in Victoria, there's YYJ events if it's talking about an event, or YYJ food if it's talking about food and recipes in restaurants and so on. So whatever industry you're in, there's no doubt at least 5 or 10 or maybe even 20 different hashtags that get used. So try to figure out what they are, follow them, and then use them. And that's a great way to get your message out to a broader audience. So I'm just going to build out this slide, but this is kind of what I call the social media ecosystem. And so you can see the base camp is your website, or in this case, this is a client we work with here in Victoria called MD Aesthetics. this is a snapshot of their blog. So that's really the foundation for the strategy, because you want to drive people to your website. You want to drive them, if you've got a blog, to your blog, because that's where they're going to find out more about you. They're going to learn more about your services. They're going to get your contact information and hopefully become a lead, either through, in this case for MD Aesthetics, booking an appointment or calling in to get more information. So this, I don't know if you can see my my cursor there, but this little icon here stands for RSS, which is Real Simple Syndication, and that's built into things like Hootsuite, and you can have it built into your website. To be honest, it doesn't get used that much anymore, but you can use it to automate the process, to send a blog post out to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or in this case, this one's email over here. Email is another great form of marketing. If you're not using RSS, you can simply use Hootsuite to publish or schedule content, and I'm going to show an example later of how to do that. And then the great thing about this, of course, is that these, what I call outposts up here, the social networks have literally millions of people following them. So they may not be following you. You may only have a couple of hundred followers, but if you're using the right hashtags, or if you're tagging the right people in your posts, then what you're putting out there is going to get in front of a lot more people, and hopefully they'll click on a link and come back to your site. So that's the idea, is try to generate this ecosystem where you're driving traffic back to your website. So there are lots of great blogs out there as examples. So that one from MD Aesthetics that I mentioned, Small Business BC, has a great blog with lots of resources for small business. And of course, the Women's Enterprise Center also has a great blog and all kinds of great resources and content to help you grow your business and just become better at what we do. So I'm taking this example of the MD Aesthetics blog, and you can see there's all different layouts for blogs, and this is kind of a common one these days, where you've got the grid pattern, and in this case it shows 8 different posts, what we call above the fold on your computer. So this particular post is one, and I should say we write content for MD Aesthetics on a regular basis. I've done for a couple of years. We do a couple of posts a month. And this is one we did that was probably the most popular. You may not, or you may recognize this woman if you're from the Victoria area, but it's Robin Farrell. She's a radio personality, and she's also a customer of MD Aesthetics, and she's not shy about talking about the benefit that she's gotten from some of the procedures and so on. And so we had quite a lengthy blog post that we wrote. You don't see it all there, but you can see in this next build out of the slide. There's quite a bit of content, and I've just highlighted some of the terms that we used in the post. In this case, one of the services that MD Aesthetics provides is something called cool sculpting. And so if you were to do a search for cool sculpting, this blog post actually comes up first. So that's one of the, as I mentioned, there's a side benefit to social media, is its positive impact on SEO. And then with that blog post, that's really, that content is kind of fodder for what you can do with social media. So of course, MD Aesthetics has a Facebook page, and we put this, the blog post out on their Facebook account. And you can see here, if you can notice the different colors here, there's the kind of light orange and then the darker orange. So we did what's called boosted this post. So we paid to get it out to a broader audience. And as you can see, it's now reached over 12,000, I think it's over 15,000 people actually. So part of it paid and part of it what we call organic. Lots of great comments, some shares and so on. So it drives lots of good interaction and awareness and traffic back to the website for that particular service. Now we kind of got lucky in the fact that Robin is a local celebrity, and she appeared in Niche magazine as well, so that didn't hurt. Of course, we also put the content out on Twitter in this case, and Instagram as well. So I did mention that I've used some other examples as well. And so in this case, Sherry, apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but Molchan or Molcan has put forward her website, and I had a good look at it, and you can see it's a very nice looking website. It's got all the pertinent information there. Email subscribe right at the top. I like to see that, so that must be important, and I suspect that she has quite a few subscribers and is using that. Also the contact information right there, so phone number and email address. I mean, that's awesome, because often I find that that's what most people are interested in when they come to a website, is they want to get your email, or they want to contact you. So I also, and this is very important, one of the other things I look at is, mobile site, or what we call responsive site, and this within the last year has a very important impact on your search rankings and SEO, because Google is taking a mobile site as one of the prime criteria in whether or not it's going to rank your site well, because so many people use mobile devices now that they want to make sure that their users have a good experience. So again, in this case, Sherry has done a good job of having a responsive site. You can see how it displays there, the email at the top. And there's different ways you can modify your site to display on mobile devices. So this is the top of the site. I did scroll down a little bit. Actually, I'll just go back. You can see, there's my cursor again. If you can see that, those 3 lines, that's what we call the hamburger. So when you're on a phone, if you click on that, that's what displays the navigation for a site. So that's very important on a mobile site. And I bring that up because you can see, oops, as soon as you scroll, sorry about that, keep touching my screen. As soon as you scroll down on the mobile site, you lose the hamburger. So you lose the ability to navigate to other parts of the site. So that's one thing, Sherry, if you're on the call, that you might want to have your designers work on, or just modify slightly. So I had a look at, so whenever we do an audit for a client, and I should say, I don't know Sherry, she's not a client, we don't work together, it's just an example that came through. But when we do work with a client, we look at all aspects of the business, and we do an audit of all social media, their Google Analytics on their site, and so on. So I just had a quick look at some of the things Sherry's doing on social media. So you can see she has a nice looking Twitter account. The background is branded much like the website, so that's good. A nice bio there with a link to her website. And fairly regular content. Looks like every other day there's something being posted, so that's good. One bit of constructive criticism I would add, or a suggestion, is to not just publish content, but also engage with users. So look for people that are asking questions pertinent to your business and answer them, or comment on what others are saying. The 554 people that she's following to answer questions and comment and so on. And maybe use a few hashtags as well around the business. So financial advice, money relationships, and so on. There's probably lots of hashtags in there to use. The Facebook page, so again, you can see a bit of a different image up there, but still kind of following along the same theme. Nice beach. I'm thinking of myself retiring somewhere in the Bahamas with lots of money in my bank account. She's got 866 followers, so that's pretty good. And again, posting content on a pretty regular basis. And then the LinkedIn page. So again, this is Sherry's personal LinkedIn page. I didn't find a business account. I'm going to show an example of another one. But in this case, Sherry has over 500 connections. LinkedIn will only show up to 500, so she could possibly have 501 or 5,000, but LinkedIn will only show 500 plus. But a well-crafted bio there as well. And just down a little bit, you can see here Sherry is also publishing content to LinkedIn. And so kudos for that. And the most recent one was August 9th, because especially in Sherry's business, I think LinkedIn is probably going to be an important social network to be a part of, just because of the nature of the business, maybe as opposed to even Instagram or Twitter. And so using the opportunity to publish content here is quite good. And then you can still, once you post it to your personal profile, you can publish that or share it on LinkedIn or even on other social programs as well.
there was a question came in regarding exactly that topic. Someone was asking, can you use, like in the published section of your website, can you use someone else's blog? Do you need to give credit? How do you do that?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, there's lots of good blogs out there and lots of posts, so we don't necessarily have to create content ourselves all the time. If there is good content out there, you can simply take the URL for a blog post and share it on any of your social accounts, so LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and so on, and then comment on it. And sometimes you can say something as simple as good read, or you could even comment on what's in the article. It could have to do with current events. So in finance, if it has to do with the exchange rate or you know, something of that nature, you know, you could provide a little commentary or advice around that. Certainly, you don't want to use the content in such a way that it looks like it came from you. You definitely want to make sure that you're sharing the or giving credits to the author. And that generally comes through when you post the link. The social networks will show a preview image, and it'll show exactly where the content is coming from. And of course, when you click, then it would go to that person's website. That tactic is also a good way to build relationships with other kind of like-minded or bloggers in your category, and potentially get links. You know, we call it backlinks to the website. So it's a good SEO tactic in order to get links to your site and improve your ranking. Another tactic is to actually go onto their blog and comment on their blog if the blog has comments open to either agree or question or provide a comment on whatever they're talking about with a link back to your website. So that's content. I'm going to try to speed things up a little bit. Now going on to engagement. So really, engagement is talking about some of the tools that we use, whether that be, you know, blog, Facebook, and so on. The recommendation here is to start slow and get comfortable. So don't take too many things on at once. Make sure, I prefer to see people doing 1 or 2 things really well as opposed to 3 or 4 things kind of mediocre. Take time to build your network, be consistent, and then just engage and be social. So go out there and like I said, communicate with people, answer questions, comment on what they're doing. So these are the kind of the main 4: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And here's that example of the LinkedIn business page that I talked about. So you can see it looks fairly similar to a Facebook page, although they generally don't get nearly as much engagement and interaction. If I was to scroll down, this is a screenshot, but if I was to scroll down, you can see where you can actually post content. So again, similar to Facebook, you can post content, links, images, just copy, and so on. But generally not as many followers, in this case only 137, and it's probably not the best fit for MD Aesthetics just because of the type of business. They get a lot more interaction on Facebook for sure, and then Twitter and Instagram. But depending on your business, you know, that's where you need to figure out where you should be. Oops. So this is their Instagram account. They just started not too long ago, so not that many followers and posts, but if you're familiar with Instagram, you can see that it's very visual. And in this case, they're posting before and after photos of the doctor, as one of their staff broke her ankle. So, oh, here's another one of staff birthday. So they like to post a lot of kind of, I wouldn't say personal, well, it's sort of personal stuff with staff and people that's happening within the business. So it really helps to communicate a bit of personality of what's behind the brand or what's behind the company. So you get to know the people there, because in their case, they're kind of a high-touch business where clients are coming in and they really want to know the people that they're working with. So they do a lot of that. And I find that with the Facebook posts, the ones that get the most views or the most engagement are often the personal ones, as opposed to the before and after and the product-related posts. And of course, this is the Women's Enterprise Network, their Twitter account. This is not up to date, so they probably have a lot more followers than that. Or, sorry, did I say network? Women's Enterprise Center. And a post from a while back where they used the hashtag BCBizChat, and I checked that out recently, or yesterday when I was preparing the presentation. I was kind of disappointed to find that it doesn't get used that much anymore. So I guess maybe there's an opportunity there for someone to pick up the BCBizChat. So if you're thinking about what kind of content to post, of course, if you have a blog, then that's always a great thing to post. Top 10 lists used to be really popular, a little less popular now just because there's so many of them. What I find people are posting are not so much top 10, but the kind of mistakes people make. Sometimes, for whatever reason, that seems to be more engaging. Photos and video are great forms of content. And there's an app or a website called Canva.com that I suggest you check out if you do want to create different forms of visual content. Check that out. There's a free version and there's a paid version. It's not very much. And it's a real kind of lifesaver for us in terms of helping to create content. And of course, just ask a question and get feedback is also a great way to engage with people on any social platform, or reposting something.
And we have a question.
Oh,
so
all right.
Another question has come in, Chris, and this is going back a little tiny bit, but just with regards to LinkedIn, someone's asked, would you be concerned about competitors using your LinkedIn connections to engage with customers that you're connected to? Do you have to sign up for a paid version of LinkedIn to avoid that?
That's a great question. There is a way when you create your LinkedIn account, of course, you connect with other people. And you can, in LinkedIn, choose to allow your connections to see the people that you're connected to. So you can actually turn that off so that all of your connections are private, and you don't have to have a paid account to do that. I choose not to do that. I'm not too concerned about it because I'm connected with so many people. I think it's about 1,400 or 1,500. And some are clients and most aren't clients. But people really wouldn't be able to tell which is a client or isn't. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about it. But you can turn that off if you don't want people to see who your connections are.
Terrific. Thank you.
So my general kind of posting rule or guideline, I guess I should say, is a 10-to-1 ratio. So 10 being value-added content to 1 marketing-related content. So it's okay if you want to talk about the product or you have a discount coupon or something is on sale, but try to weigh that out or average that out with about 10 kind of value-added. So tips, additional information, even that personal kind of background within the company sort of information. If people are seeing every other post is a link to a sale or a discount or a coupon or something like that, the people get weary of that pretty quick and will unfollow you. So now we get into the management. So this is the tools and systems. So it's important to identify resources. So who's going to do what? If you're a solopreneur, then it's probably going to be you unless you're outsourcing it to somebody. But if you have even one other person or a couple of people within the company, you may have somebody that's keen to do Facebook. So it's just a matter of making sure they're trained so that they're doing the right thing and not saying things that they shouldn't say. But all of the social channels now have the ability to assign privileges to different people so that they can post content, but maybe don't make them an admin, for example, of the Facebook page so that they're not able to delete it, or if they leave the company, all they can do is post content, and then you can change those privileges easily. Hootsuite there's lots of social media management tools out there. Hootsuite just happens to be the one I use, and they're out of Vancouver. Create a system, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well, and then work the system. So this is a screenshot of my Hootsuite dashboard. Yours won't look quite this busy. I've got lots of clients up there, as you can see. So all the tabs, if I was to go to a different tab, that's how we manage content for them. But you can see that you can actually have up to 10 columns so that you can see different things that are going on, depending if you have a large monitor, or in my case, I use 2 monitors, so I can stretch it across both. And then I can see what's going on Twitter, if anyone has asked a question, or in this case, if I'm following YYJ events on Instagram, I can see what people are posting there. And then Hootsuite has built into it the ability to either schedule a post, so you can, if you don't have the Pro account, you can only schedule one at a time. But what we do is with the Pro account, which I think it's $20 a month now. I know they raised the price recently. You can do what's called bulk schedule content, and you can schedule it to multiple platforms. So I can create content and schedule it to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Those are the main 3. And in that way, we publish this content pretty much on a monthly basis, where every day of the week we've got either 2 or 3 things going out. And we usually schedule it so we've got something going out around 9 a.m. in the morning, around noon, lunchtime, and then later in the day. And depending on the client, we do the research and determine when the most people are online, so that they're going to see the content that gets published. And then the system that we suggest using is, well, sometimes people ask, how much time does it require? And you know, some people are on for an hour or more a day, but we suggest at a minimum, if you're going to do social media right, at a minimum, it's going to be about 30 minutes a day. And the way that you can manage that is to break that into 10-minute increments. So for example, when you get into the office in the morning or wherever you work from, often the first thing we do is we get our coffee or tea, and then we check our email. So if after you've checked your email, you add on 10 minutes to open your social media dashboard, whatever that happens to be, and just check on the day's content. Did anyone post or respond to anything, or do you need to publish content that morning? Or maybe something has happened in the evening that you want to talk about. So take 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at lunch, and 10 minutes towards the end of the day. And you'll find that you can actually get quite a bit done. Especially if you have a mobile phone and you've got your dashboard on your phone, then you can actually monitor and manage your social content, you know, whether you're standing in line at Starbucks or you're waiting for a ferry or what have you. There's lots of downtime in our day that we can spend doing something productive. So that brings us to the measurement. And assuming we've done everything else well up to this point, then we're going to have lots of great results to look at. So on your website, there's something called Google Analytics, which hopefully you all have on your website. If you don't, that's the first thing that I would suggest you do after this, after you get off this webinar, is go talk to your webmaster or whoever built your website and ask them to install Google Analytics on your website. It's free. They may charge you to install it, but the application is free. And it's a great source of information to know, A, what the health of your website is, to make sure everything is running properly, but B, if all of this marketing that you're doing is generating any results. And then Hootsuite has analytics built into it. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of the social accounts have analytics built in as well. So here's an example of Hootsuite Analytics. So these are summary stats for the month of August. And this shows clicks on links in social posts. So you can see there was 111 for the month of August, and you can see what days got the most clicks as well. So that's kind of interesting, but not hugely useful. What's more useful is the actual content itself. So now you can go back and look at the content that you planned out and you produced, and you can see what really is engaging to our followers and our customers based on if they've clicked on it, then obviously they're pretty interested in it. And so this is how you can tell what content is most interesting. and most valuable to you, and then you can actually follow that further by going right down into the website and seeing, okay, well, if they clicked on this tweet about my product, did they end up buying the product, or did they end up leaving, you know, either maybe subscribing to an email or filling out a form to become a lead. This is a screenshot of Google Analytics. This is what's called the referring site report. And so you can see here, what referring site means is the traffic that's coming to a website from links on other sites. So in this case, you can see the #1 referrer for this particular month was Facebook, which stands for mobile. So these are people that are using Facebook on their mobile phone. And then Facebook is also the #4 referrer as well. So a lot of people using Facebook both on their phone and on the computer.
And Chris, I have a question that's come in. This is going back a little bit, definitely tied into Facebook. Someone was saying that they're interested in your view about using a social media Facebook post, even if you don't use their scheduling system. Have you heard that?
It is true, and now Facebook, probably about 6 months or so ago, kind of said they changed if you were posting Facebook from Hootsuite, it shows up a little bit differently. And we did notice that if you posted the same thing from Hootsuite or directly onto Facebook, that the posts from third-party apps would get fewer views. Now, Facebook said that they changed that, and that was no longer the case, but I don't necessarily believe them. So generally, yeah, we don't schedule posts to Facebook from a third-party app. We schedule them within Facebook. So we'll do that in Facebook. So good question.
Great, thank you.
And then this screenshot of this other report within Google Analytics just shows the traffic coming to the site from your social network. So again, in this case, Facebook was the most popular, followed by Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and Google+. It also shows the number of conversions here. So conversions coming, and then it shows the contributed conversion, meaning that was social one of the items that was clicked on or used as they led to a conversion. And then the last interaction, so meaning that it's quite possible that this particular person who converted was an email subscriber. They may have gotten an email from the company, they may have clicked on an ad, but their last interaction before they converted was on a social channel. So they may have clicked on a Facebook ad and then come in and converted. So this is all really valuable information. Which brings me to the 90-day challenge. So if we've worked through all of these things, and theoretically, you know, you've got a schedule, you've got a strategy, you've got a plan in place, kind of where the rubber hits the road is whether you actually implement it or not. So I put this together a couple of years ago, and we've done a few kind of contests with this where we have 10 things that we challenge people to do for 90 days, and we find without fail that if they've actually done these things for 90 days, then it makes it much easier to carry on, and they've built the you know, the necessary discipline and kind of processes and routine in place to keep it going. So here they are. So if you can commit to doing the following for 90 days, you will be successful. Post every day at least 3 times, more if you'd like. And certainly if you plan out your content and schedule it ahead of time, then this should be easy. It'll just take a little more time up front to do. So some of the things that you want to share is your knowledge and expertise, as we talked about. Also, find people to follow in various places, like in my case, I like to do some paddleboarding, so I find other people in the area that do that and follow them and talk to them about that, or other paddle hobbies that you have. So find those people and connect with them. create at least 2 lists. So you can create lists in businesses, customers, competitors, local media that you want to connect with, and that'll make it easier to follow them on Hootsuite or just on Twitter. Share or repost other posts from people that you enjoy. And say something like have a sense of humor. You got to be a little bit careful with this one, but it's always good to have a personality. Reply at least once a day with either a comment or a question. So engage. Post a few pictures or video if you have the time to create videos. Sometimes, depending on how comfortable you are in front of a camera, but if you have an iPhone or something, where you're talking about use hashtags, so SMBs, so for small business, BC Biz Chat, or look for those hashtags related to your industry and use those. And events like Women's Enterprise Center mixers, Chamber of Commerce mixers, there's all kinds of events going on. So attend events, get business cards, and then after the event, go track those people down on LinkedIn and connect them. And when you do that, let them know that they may comment about something to discuss or something, and just build out those networks. Once you get them on LinkedIn, then check and see if they're on Twitter, Instagram, whatever networks that you're on. Follow them and just keep that relationship going. Any 90-day challenge?
Just one other question came in. I'm not sure it's a 90-day challenge, Chris, but they're asking, someone asked about that CAFL regulation. So for those of you, CAFL means Canadian Anti-Spam legislation. I'm just wondering how this applies to social media.
Applies to email. So it came in a couple of years ago now. But you definitely, if you're doing any email marketing, you definitely want to make sure that you're what's called CASL compliant. So I would suggest if you are doing email marketing, just Google CASL, will probably do it, CASL, and go to, there's a really good government website around that. And it will give you all of the particulars around the CASL policy. So just make sure that you're following those when you do any email marketing. So it mostly relates to your subscribers and how you're getting them. So making sure that they've provided explicit consent to email to them. So getting back to the presentation, so this is just a slide I like to put in. I've often had people ask, well, what is the ROI of social media? ROI standing for return on investment, or when will I be successful? And so I like to show this slide where it shows on the x-axis your ROI and the y-axis is the time. And so when you first start out, of course, it's a negative ROI because you're spending lots of time and you're not getting a lot of results. And then as you go along, it's kind of flat. But then you get to a certain point where you sort of hit critical mass, where you've got enough followers and you've got enough momentum behind you where you're developing content and building relationships, and then the ROI starts to go up quite a bit. And of course, the question I get asked is, well, what is that time frame? And the answer to that is really, it depends on you. So it depends on how active you are, how important social is to your business, because of course there are lots of different marketing tactics that we can use. Social media is just one of them, but if you develop your plan and you create content and you're publishing on a regular basis, then there's a good chance that from start to positive ROI could be 2, 3, 4 months. But generally it's not any less than that, and sometimes it's longer. So it's definitely a long-term strategy. It's not a short-term win. You have to work at it and then you have to stick with it. And that's again part of those two mistakes that I talked about in the beginning that people make without having a plan and the resources, leads to kind of quitting before the magic happens, as I say. meaning that, you know, before you get to that point where it really does start to pay off and work. And when you've got to the point where you've got 5,000 followers and you know, maybe 500 or 1,000 email subscribers, that becomes gold whenever you do need to drive traffic to a website, or in my case, I just sent out an email this morning, for example, about a Soho event that we've got coming up. And immediately we got 5 or 6 registrations. And that...
I'm just going to add that that really speaks to your whole notion of a 90-day challenge. Coming back to that, using that strategy of testing it and not giving up, because in working with small businesses, what I often hear is it takes too much time and nothing's happening. But a 90-day challenge, following that formula, you, as Chris says, you will see results.
True. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. I'm happy to hang around and answer more questions. On the last slide here, I just put a bit of an offer for you guys if you're interested. The Soho is another event I put on in Victoria and Nanaimo, so you can see the dates there. So if you're interested in attending, you can save $50 with the Women's Enterprise Center coupon code. Yeah, I will hang around, so if you want to type in some questions in chat or pass them on to Dawn, I'll be happy to hang around and answer them. And I can also move out of PowerPoint into a browser if you want. I can show you something on Hootsuite or LinkedIn or whatever you want.
We do have another question, Chris. It says, what is the least painful way to get started for someone who hates social media?
That's a good question too, and it's, you know, it's one that I get quite often. Well, not so much least painful, but there's people that they just don't like social media. I get a lot of people coming to me and saying, "Oh, you know, I don't like that. I hate it. I hate Facebook," and that's fine. You don't have to like this stuff, but if it's going to be effective and it's going to grow your business and drive sales, then I think you're going to like it. You may not like doing it, and in which case, I would say if you don't like doing it, you probably shouldn't be doing it, because if it doesn't come natural, you may want to get either someone within the organization, or you may want to contract it out to somebody to get it done for you with your direction. But yeah, if you don't like it, there's a good chance you're probably not going to do it. So, and if you're a single person organization, we work with a lot of realtors, for example, and they're busy. And some of them really do like doing it, and they're quite successful, and they're out there tweeting all the time, and that's fine. Others, they don't like it at all, and they have us do the majority of the work. So there's those various options: either get someone else within the company or contract it out. So I saw a question come in through the chat there. Have not used hashtags before. What's a good way to think of to research hashtags? So the best thing to do is go to Twitter. So if you have a Twitter account, and go in the search box and put in, let's say your business is yoga. I mean, you could do yoga as a hashtag, and then you're going to get tons of content. It might be a good way to start. So it'd be a bit too large and generic, but you can then look for other hashtags that are being used around yoga. What you might want to do is, if your business is specific to your region, so let's say you're in Kelowna and you're doing yoga, then maybe do 2 hashtags, do yoga and Kelowna. Or the airport code, I think it's YKW, I think. And experiment with different things. But once you put in one thing, then look at all the results and then read some of the tweets, and you'll see other hashtags that people are using. But you probably within about 5 or 10 minutes, you can get a good list of hashtags. And just have a look at who's using them and how many retweets they're getting and so on. And you'll get a pretty good sense for what's a good popular hashtag.
Okay, we've got a couple more minutes if there are questions, because we started late, and again, apologies for the technical difficulties. I hope you can bear with us on those. We do still have a couple more minutes for Chris. If anyone has a question, chat is probably the easiest, fastest way to connect that question. Click on chat. Okay. So have you got a couple of those there now, Chris?
I see one that says, how do you select a good web hosting company? So web hosting is a bit of a commodity these days. There's literally hundreds of companies that will host your website. I would say, like anything, you kind of get what you pay for. So there's some really cheap companies out there, and cheap might be a couple of bucks a month type of thing. So I would be careful of that. I would look for a reputable company. If hosting in Canada is important to you, then you can look for that. There's not quite as many in Canada as there are in the US or other parts of the world. Certainly companies like GoDaddy and so on are pretty popular, well-known names. Yeah, I would say just do a bit of research and then find one that is reputable and then has the services that you require. So it also depends on the size of your website, how much traffic you're getting. We just finished the design of a site, for example, a couple of months ago that was, it's about 5,000 pages, and they're doing online commerce, and it's got a pretty robust database of products, and they're selling in around the world, but the website is in 2 languages, English and Chinese. So we actually had to, we use a company called HostGator for them, which is pretty good, but we had to get a what's called a private server, so that they have all their whole website on a private exclusive server, which is quite expensive. But for most sites, you can use what's called a shared server. So your website is on the same server as probably hundreds of other websites.
Great. All right. Well, folks, I think we're just ready to wrap up now. Most important task is to thank Chris Burdge of bWEST Interactive. Chris, you provided a tremendous amount of information. I think insight into how social media works and can work for small business. A reminder to everyone, you will get a copy of today's presentation, and we'll include info on the SOHO Summit, the Small Office Home Office Summit that's coming up in Victoria as well. And Nanaimo, for those of you in the Nanaimo region. There's lots happening. There's some great information. Women's Enterprise Center brings you these mentor advisory forums, and we couldn't do it without volunteers who come on board to share their expertise. So if we could all be applauding right now, and thank goodness we figured it, we solved the mute, or we wouldn't be able to hear each other speak, Chris. We're all applauding you right now. Thank you so much. Thanks on behalf of Women's Enterprise Center, and thanks to Chris Burdge.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, guys. And my email address is there, so if anyone has any other questions that didn't get answered today, I'm happy to answer by email later. And I hope you all have a great day.
Terrific. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us.